Hello, I just wanted to give an update because a few of you asked me to do a video after I lost Leo to see what happened afterwards. So this is just a very quick pregnancy after loss update. So obviously after I lost Leo, I was pretty hell-bent on getting pregnant again. That was really all I could focus on and all I felt that I had to live for. I kind of had a taste of what it was like to have a child, and then I just couldn't really go back to life as it was before that. So this is my experience wanting to have a baby after losing a baby to stillbirth. So Leo was 40 plus 5 weeks when he died, and I did have a miscarriage before that. So perhaps if Leo wasn't my first baby, it might be a little bit different, but he was the first baby. So we kind of came home to an empty house and nursery and aching arms. So all I wanted to do was really fill those and have a reason or a purpose to be here. So I had spoken to the midwife who delivered Leo, and she had very kindly offered to do the care for a rainbow baby, and she introduced us to a lovely consultant as well who was amazing and could organise lots of extra scans and do a repeat C-section and see us whenever we wanted to. So we had so much support, which was really nice. So between getting pregnant and losing Leo after the funeral and things, I was just doing lots of exercise every single day, and I lost about 30 kilos in total, so quite a lot, and it was just kind of like my therapy, and I felt like I was working towards a goal, because if I could lose the weight and keep myself very fit, then at least I knew I had a better chance of recovering from the repeat C-section with the next baby. So I felt like I was trying to do something towards the baby, if that makes sense. We also had couples counselling from an amazing charity called Petals. That's how we met our counsellor. You have a few free sessions, and then we actually continued with her right up until our rainbow baby arrived. We were doing sessions maybe like once a month or something, and I found those really, really useful. And I really liked her attitude as well, because she was just kind of like, nothing anyone will ever say will bring Leo back, but she was also extremely empathetic. And I never asked her, but it was kind of like she knew what we were going through, because I think one thing I really struggled with was I just felt completely lost with my friends and family, because I didn't really feel like anyone understood, and people would always say the wrong thing or something that would just make me think, you've got absolutely no idea what I've been through. Like, oh, it's fine, you got pregnant really quickly, you can just have another one. It's like, if your husband died or something, I wouldn't be just say, it's fine, you can go out and find another one and just replace them like that, because human lives can be replaced so easily. So yeah, I really struggled with that, and a lot of people obviously don't really know what to say, but then sadly friendships do just fall apart. So yeah, I found the online community really useful, and like lots of people have asked me questions because of my previous video on Instagram and things, and I've been able to talk to them and share my experiences, but also just have someone to talk to who has been through the same thing, because otherwise it's really difficult to connect with people because they just don't get it. So when we found out that I was pregnant, I had postpartum thyroiditis after Leo, just because of an autoimmune thyroid condition I've got, and so my thyroid was very unstable, which isn't really it's not advisable when you're trying to get pregnant or you are pregnant, especially in the first trimester. So I probably shouldn't have got pregnant so quickly afterwards. It was 5 months after Leo that I fell pregnant. But I did, because I didn't feel like I could wait the year that they'd recommended between a C-section and getting pregnant again. I just knew that I wasn't going to be able to last that long. So I was pregnant, and then we found out the gender, and I was extremely upset when I found out that our daughter Sienna was a girl, because I felt like I'd lost Leo again, almost being pregnant made me feel like Leo was back inside me, and I was just so excited to feel the kicking and just feel what it was like when he was alive. So I was really upset when I found out she was a girl, but actually I think it is a blessing in disguise, because she's a completely different person, and everything that we had hoped and dreamed for him, you know, like going to take him to play football on a weekend, for example, all of those things, I would have found it quite difficult to watch someone else doing it, another child straight away, almost as if we are replacing him. But obviously we desperately wanted a little boy, so I don't know, that's just because we ended up having a girl that probably I feel that way. So we did have a little girl, and we had lots of extra scans. We had to explain the situation because it was a different sonographer every single time, so we had to explain that our previous baby had died, and could you please let us know if the heart's beating straight away, because we're really anxious. And so once we found out that it was beating, we were kind of okay. The extra scans I think were helpful, but equally, as soon as I left the room, I knew that her heart could stop beating then. It could happen at any point, so they weren't really that reassuring for me. And on a couple of occasions, I did feel that she'd stopped moving, so normally I would keep it to myself because I wouldn't want to alarm James, but we did actually end up going into the hospital on 2 occasions. And unfortunately James had to wait outside because of COVID, in the exact same place he had to wait for Leo, so it was a bit nerve-wracking, and that was for at least over an hour again. So yeah, that wasn't a very fun experience, and thankfully her heart was beating, so she was still moving around. So then we got towards the end of the pregnancy, and I think that's when my anxiety peaked, and I'd asked my GP if there's anything that I could take for anxiety just to get me through the last few weeks, because I was really struggling, and he said that there wasn't. And then I spoke to my consultant, and she wrote me a prescription for promethazine, which I took maybe like 4 or 5 times it just helps you to fall asleep at night, so at least I could switch off, because my brain was just going a million miles an hour and I was just convinced that she wasn't going to make it. And on the day of the C-section, I think that was the most nervous I've ever been in my entire life, and James as well. It just, every second felt like an hour, and we unfortunately had to go into the same room, the same theatre that Leo was born in, so we're in exactly the same place. And because of COVID, we'd wanted to go into the theatre anyway, just to kind of see it again, to help with the PTSD, especially for James. But unfortunately we hadn't been able to do that, so it was the first time that we were going back into the place that Leo had been born still. And we thought about our playlist, our music playlist. We didn't want to play anything sort of like sad or classical in case 1,000 Years came on, which was what Leo was born to. Equally, we didn't want anything upbeat because it just didn't reflect our mood, and if she'd been born still, we didn't really want like some happy music playing. So we just played the radio, and Sienna was transverse across me, so she was born breech, and the consultant had warned us that maybe she might be a little bit quiet at first, and it was 36 plus 6 weeks, so she was also technically premature. So we were kind of panicking that she wasn't going to make any noise and not be okay and have to be rushed straight to NICU or something, but she came out and then did the girliest scream, and it was just the best noise I've ever heard in my life, and we were all just smiling and so happy that she'd been born safely. And then we went to the recovery ward with her, and I got to hold her on my chest, and it was just like, I just couldn't believe that I was holding a living baby, and she just looked so much like Leo. It was just like everything had been, I don't know, it's just a mysterious way that the world works. And not that it's full circle because Leo can't ever be replaced, but that she was kind of here with a little part of him in her as well. And then because she had to have glucose heel prick test because she was premature, they had to like prick her heel, take a little blood sample and check her glucose levels. When she had the first one, I was in recovery, she just suddenly went completely lifeless and blue and floppy, and the midwives just looked at her with panic in their face and ran her out of the room, obviously to the recovery area, and James ran after them, and I was just lying there because I still had a catheter in and I had my IV, etc. And that was just a horrific moment. I just felt like, there it is, she had to die at some point and it's happened now. It just was far too good to be true to have had those hours with a living baby. And on the first night, we found it very difficult to sleep because we were very anxious about what had happened, and we kind of wanted to know, like, why did she suddenly stop breathing? Is there something wrong with her? Could it happen again? And they said, you know, maybe it's just because she's premature. She was born so quickly, she doesn't even know she's here, and she doesn't realise that she needs to breathe now. So we were kind of just like, okay, not very reassured. And then on the first night, in the middle of the night, someone came into the room and said, just to let you know, your daughter's on the resus machine. She's okay, but she did stop breathing again. And we were just petrified. We had to stay in for a few days, and when I was trying to breastfeed a couple of times, the same thing happened again. And we pressed the emergency button and they came straight away, and she kind of like brought herself around from all the panic and commotion. And when we got home, we'd used this thing that we found on the Lullaby Trust, which is like a little clicker on her nappy, which clicks every time she breathes. It buzzes if she doesn't breathe for a while, and then it sets off an alarm when she doesn't breathe for a long time. And of course, the alarm went off on the first few nights at home. And we were so anxious, and it was just so horrific and not right for us, that we decided to just not use it and accept that whatever was going to happen to her was going to happen, but we could not just stay awake for the rest of our lives and just watch every single breath that she takes. It wasn't going to be any good for our anxiety, and it wasn't going to be any good for her, so we just kind of got rid of all of the gadgets. So she did have those dusky episodes in hospital, which were terrifying, and we did think that we'd lost her, and it was too good to be true. But then when we were finally discharged, we walked past the room that I had Leo in, and he'd obviously never got to leave that room, and we were carrying Sienna in a car seat. And I think my hormones were kind of like obviously all over the place, and my mood was dropping. And when we got home, something that I absolutely had not anticipated, obviously I'd heard about it a lot, but I just didn't think it would happen to me. I just didn't bond or feel anything for Sienna. In fact, I felt complete resentment towards her because she'd made it back home and Leo had never made it back home, and I just didn't want to be a part of it. I wanted to go and be with Leo, and I wanted to leave the house, and I just didn't feel anything for her. And we had lots of family obviously coming over, and I wish that we'd had that time to ourselves so that I could really get to know her and see her and feel confident that I had a bond with her first. And the bond did come. It came when I was looking at her maybe a couple of weeks later. It was at least a few weeks, and obviously now, like, I'm completely obsessed with her and love her more than anything in the world. But I wasn't prepared for that at all, because I'd obviously wanted a baby so much, and I didn't realise that could happen. And the counsellor actually said that she thought my grief had peaked after the baby was here, but it's kind of like a release. Like, we were on autopilot, just like after Leo, I was like, right, I'm getting pregnant, I'm having a baby, and that was my focus. And once the baby was here, it's kind of like you just start to relax in a way, and then it all kind of comes out, and you realise you've got to sort of face everything that happened. I don't know, it was a very, very emotionally charged time for me when we came home with Sienna. But now we're 4.5 months in, and it is absolutely amazing. So it's just the best thing, and it has helped to heal our hearts in some ways a lot. There's a part for Leo which will be missing, and life, I don't think life will ever be okay without him. There isn't really a single hour that goes by that I don't think about him. And we get Sienna to say good morning. Well, she doesn't obviously say it, but we say good morning and good night to Leo when we open and draw the curtains every day. And we do tell her about her brother all the time, her big brother watching over her. And she looks just like him, and there's definitely a little piece of him in her. And it's very strange because she wouldn't be here without him, and I couldn't live without her now either. And it's just, it's very strange, but you do, I never thought that I'd be able to love another baby, because I just said Leo is, you know, he is my baby. Nothing's ever going to replace Leo. Nothing's ever going to be good enough to be Leo. I will never love a baby like Leo. And obviously now Sienna's here and I do love another baby like Leo. So you do just grow the space to love all of your babies. So yeah, that was just the first couple of weeks, and that I struggled. So I just wanted to mention that, because I wasn't prepared for it, and I was really angry with myself because I just assumed that I would just be over the moon and love her so much because I wanted her so badly. But now I feel that, so that's great. So there's so much that happens with pregnancy after loss. I'm sure I've forgotten to say something, but if there's anything that you want to ask me specifically, please feel free. And a few people have messaged me on Instagram, and I'm more than happy to talk at any point, because I know that it's really hard to find people who understand what you've been through. So I'm very happy to share my experience if it's going to help in any way, shape or form. So yeah. Anyway, Sienna arrived on the 19th of October, so she's 4.5 months, and she's absolutely perfect now, and hopefully she is just a little bit of inspiration if you're on this journey, to know that it can happen. It's a really anxious time, and I don't want to say, you know, anything, because I know what it felt like. You're never going to believe it until your baby's here in your own arms, so there's nothing I can say to help with that, but it does happen.